welcome to another episode here on my channel. My name is ChaosMole, and today we are checking out the Diablo IV quarterly update for December 2020, which is the last quarterly update, I think, before the BlizzCon. If you're also wondering who am I talking to sometimes, it's my chat, because we're also live streaming at the same time, so don't be too surprised about it. But yeah, let's have a look at the table of contents. I haven't really looked at this yet, so I don't know what Blizzard is talking about and what they are showcasing here. But let's analyze the stuff. So it seems like they are focusing on a few things they have been talking to the community like in the last quarterly update, like with the skill trees and stuff. Let's dive right into it. Hello, and welcome once again to the Diablo IV quarterly update, our last for 2020. Progress on the game continues at a steady clip, and we're excited about several big updates and revisions that the teams worked on for a long time that we are trying to complete before the holidays. Today's topic centers on such major revision, which also happens to be the most requested topic this year: itemization. Items are the lifeblood of Diablo. They are the element of the game that captures your imagination and keeps you playing and wondering, what if? After you put the game down. Whether it is anticipation, the next piece of perfectly rolled godly gear, or kicking around item combinations in your head like a mad scientist, items are undoubtedly a major part of what makes Diablo so compelling and so different from other games. Well, you could argue about that. Path of Exile, Grim Dawn. Well, let's move on here. Understanding how important it is to get itemization right, especially after Diablo 3 and before the expansion came out, we paid special attention to earlier player feedback about this part of the game. We knew that many more iterations awaited between what we have showed you at BlizzCon 2019, our follow-up blogs, and the final game release. We also knew from past Diablo entries that we would need to have the time and the resources to make these iterations. Thankfully, we have that baked into our current schedule. Getting all of your feedback encouraged us to move some of that iteration time forward so that we could get our newest direction in front of you sooner. And I have to say, I really love what they are doing here with those quarterly updates. I really have to point that out. Like, one of the big problems of Diablo 3 was definitely that they mostly cooked Diablo 3 in secret. And yes, there was a beta 6 months before the release, but that beta was so incomplete. There was like the first, 20%, 25% of Act 1 in the beta, and that was it. Like, we didn't know anything about the end game. We didn't know anything about any of the stuff, like how it really works. And I'm really glad that they are starting to talk to the community, listen to the community early, and I really hope that they are also getting in the community relatively early into the game, and not just let you play like the first part of Act 1 again. Like, if they're keeping this up, nobody can say that the community didn't have a say in the Diablo 4 development. Lead game designer Joe Shelley is going to walk us through all of our major itemization updates today. We've reviewed every aspect of itemization from top to bottom and reworked elements that we felt weren't living up to their potential, from the individual stats that our class tap into to the visual representation of items in your inventory. Of course, it's still early and we still have a lot more playtesting and iterating to do, but we think this direction puts us down a more solid foundational path, and we couldn't be happier to share it with you today. By the way, there was a news or rumor that maybe at BlizzCon in February next year, they will actually reveal a new class for Diablo 4, which I'm looking forward to. Oh, it's the Paladin. Please let it be the Paladin. You can keep tabs on what we are about to on social media. Speaking of which, our next update will take place during BlizzConline. rather than in block form. We have read speculation about what it could be and want to ensure you that it is something chunky indeed without spoiling the surprise. Let's just say it involves a new version of the campfire scene we showed you at BlizzCon. Well, you have it. The new scene is basically like there will be an additional character there. So there you go. Alright. So, today we're going to look at some changes to items in Diablo 4, an update on a few things we have shared in our previous development blogs. In deciding what changes to make, we focused on 3 core ideals. First, we want to strengthen class identity by providing intuitive fantasy hooks. Items and skills that lean into the fantasy of your class are best. Second, we want to support deeper customization through our itemization. Items should support and enhance your class, not define it. That's actually really good, because Diablo 3 actually had that issue, but we can talk about that in a second. Finally, we are landing on overall depth, somewhere between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. We aim to provide years of things to discover and countless ways to build a class. So to go back to the second point, this was a particular point in Diablo 3 that there was a itemization build for every build in the game, but it also defined you pretty much which items you had to get if you were playing like a certain build, right? Let's say you were playing a Crusader in Diablo 3 and you want to do like a Thorn build, like you wanted to have like a very specific item set, you wanted to get like some certain specific weapons for that and a certain specific shield, and you didn't really have a choice. It wasn't really a choice, you had to go that way. Or what I'm playing in this season right now, and just because I found all the items to do so, is a hammer build for my Crusader. So I'm throwing around like a lot of holy hammers, and that was just because I found all the set pieces and I found all the legendary items and whatnot to make this happen. But here's the thing, I don't need anything else. There's no room for tinkering. You want those items if you were going with a specific build, and that's fine at some point, but especially in Diablo 3, I always felt like you were already set. Like it wasn't really like giving you options, right? Like that it changes your hammer, or that it like does something specific to other abilities when you're using the hammer or anything, but it was literally like, yeah, your hammer becomes overpowered now and kills everything, so this is why you want it. And if they want to go back to the idea of, yeah, maybe we're just giving you ways to customize your build and way to tinker with the build instead of making it a must-have, I think that's a good idea. Of course, we have to see how it works out, let's be honest here. But yeah, in Diablo 3, Sakura says in chat, it's a shopping list. Like, you are creating a character, you decide which skills you want, and then you basically have a shopping list of those items which are must-have. And I find that a bit boring. Yeah, I mean, it makes it, of course, easier for people who are new to the game, right? Because you can just tell directly the person to get those and those items, and then they're good. But that also means, in retrospect, for all the people who are playing this game longer, who are playing this game over weeks, months, maybe even years, it just becomes the same thing over and over, right? It becomes very stale very quickly. All right, let's jump into the skill tree. Since releasing the last quarterly blog post on the skill tree, we've been reviewing all of your feedback. By the way, if you haven't checked it out, definitely check the skill tree out in September. That thing looks amazing, just saying. Our team has also had a lot of hands-on time with our skill trees in frequent internal playtest, including an extended progression playtest. Based on this, we are confident it is a solid direction, so we are going to iterate on it and make further improvements. For example, we are increasing the clustering of related skill nodes, so players don't have to go across the tree to find skill grades for the builds. Yeah, I think that was definitely one of the things people noticed, that in those skill trees, like on the left side of the skill tree, you had like ice skills, and then on the right side of the skill tree, you had the rest of the ice skills for your mage, and it was like, why are you doing this? Like, keep the ice stuff together, keep the fire stuff together, and so on. Like, it makes it so much easier, right? And then, of course, you don't have to skill weird stuff to get what you want. The ability to re-specialize or respec your skills is a tricky one to balance. Like many of you, we want choices to matter and characters to feel different from each other, not just one click away from being identical to all the others. We also want to encourage players to experiment with different skills when they start playing and discover builds that are right for them. In Diablo 4, you will be able to respec your skills and passives. The number of times you can do this will be unlimited, but it won't be free. It will be easy to do when you first start a character. As a character grows, the effort and cost required to respec will grow too. In the endgame, changing your build will require significant investment to appropriately match the time and effort you have put into defining your character. So they're basically going the Path of Exile route, and I will be honest, good. Good. Don't get me wrong, we are all doing mistakes in those games. We are all doing mistakes we are regretting. But in Diablo 3, that's what I just explained with the Crusader I've been playing this season, where I started this Crusader out as a Thorn build, right? Just running it as a Thorn build, and the moment I had more items in the Hammerdin, or Hammer Crusader, look, we called it Hammerdin in D2, don't ask me. But the thing is, I just switched over. Like, it took me 5 minutes at best. I was switching everything over. I was putting on the new equipment, and then it was basically hammered in, and then it was just like throwing around like magic hammers. And it's like, yeah, when you can do that so easily, you're not really thinking about anything. It's just, oh yeah, I'm just putting that in here, see how it works, and then whatever. If it doesn't work out, I would just change it up. I don't care. And one of the things which definitely keeps Path of Exile going is the ability that you can still respec, but your choices matter. And you want to make sure that you are thinking a little bit about what you are speccing into. So that Diablo was basically taking an idea out of the playbook of Path of Exile. Cool. Why not? I mean, I can't believe I will say this, but learn from the master. Like, Path of Exile right now is the leading action RPG, player-wise. That is what it is. So yeah, why not learn from them what they're doing? Like, we don't have to go back to Diablo 2 times. We really don't have to go back to Diablo 2 times where they're basically saying like, oh yeah, well, you choose the wrong talents, well, tough luck. Better you re-roll your character, right? We don't need that. Like, that's something even I don't want. But going the Path of Exile route, I'm all for it. Ooh, we are getting a video. I love videos. Primary stats. In our last blog, we agreed with your feedback that too much of a character's power came from the items they were, and we liked the imagery conjured by the phrases angelic power and demonic power. but they didn't reinforce the fantasy of what being a barbarian, a sorcerer, or a druid is all about. So we went back to our roots and looked at the classic RPG elements of early Diablo games. What are you really doing when you wade through a horde of monsters and emerge a level higher on the other side? You are training, you are practicing a skill, you are getting better at what you do, becoming stronger and smarter. I think this is after gaining a level, your barbarian has received 5 stat points and 2 skill points to spend. Oh my god, they are bringing back the stat points? That's awesome. When you gain a level, you receive points to spend in strength, intelligence, dexterity, or willpower, along with your skill points. Of course, most barbarian builds are going to benefit from a healthy measure of strength, but as you build out your character and decide on skills and synergies, you want to mix other attributes. Can I? Oh, I love that you can click on it. I always love that. Yeah, look at this. This really reminds me of Diablo 2 a lot. Especially that inventory. Is the inventory smaller? The inventory is smaller, isn't it? Huh. I love to put stat points in. Like, again, I made this argument in even World of Warcraft when they took away the talent points and whatnot. And, of course, the stat points in Diablo 3. And Blizzard was arguing at the point that for character development, it doesn't really matter. Right? Like, your characters will still be as strong as without putting those points in. And I always made the argument that's not the point here. It's a power fantasy. It's a power fantasy where people gain a level up. They're gaining points they're putting into their character to make them feel stronger. It makes them feel as if they have basically participated to the strength they just gained from that level up. That's what Dungeon and Dragon does. Right? Sure, Dungeon and Dragons could just automatically give you the stats. But it would feel less meaningful, and not as powerful. But putting in your stat points into your character makes you feel like, man, I have just done something. And that's something which was missing in Diablo 4. Diablo 3, and I'm glad, man, what is going on here, English, that they are bringing them back for Diablo 4. So, awesome. What is this? Oh, those are the attribute points in comparison. Let's have a look at that. So, increase skill damage, increase defense, increase all resistance. This is the barbarian and Haemonic. This is the mage. Willpower, resource regeneration. Oh, they bring willpower back. Interesting. Increased critical strike chance. Improved chance to dodge attacks. Huh. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So the mage wants to go on intelligence. So this is very much like Diablo 2. Yeah, this is very close to what Diablo 2 was. Which I'm okay with. It was a good system. So, why not? I don't mind. Sure thing. You can supplement your character stat build with items to give you a little bit more willpower here, a little bit more strength there, but the vast majority of your stats will come from how you choose to spend your points. Oh, interesting. And here's where it gets really interesting. Well, thanks, Blizzard. Many of the nodes in each class skill tree have additional effects if you meet specific primary stat thresholds. Wait, where have I seen this before? Where have I seen this before? I think there was another game where you had to read like specific primary stat thresholds to get something more out of a skill or spec. Was it Path? No, I think it was Grim Dawn? Which game was it? Damn it! You get baseline effect of the nodes when you spend the skill points to unlock them, but get enough of the corresponding primary stat and the bonus effect will activate. Oh. So let's have a look at this. Give me just a second here. Let me do something very quickly here, and let me grab that, and then we can just do this. Thankful. So this is Whirlwind. Okay, Fury cost, deals damage, arsenal selection. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Whirlwind upgrade. Whirlwind restores 1 Fury each time it hits an enemy. Okay. Whirlwind. Oh, 150 dexterity. Whirlwind no longer slows the barbarian's movement speed while active. Whirlwind provides a 3% movement speed boost each second while active, stacking up to 15%. Whirlwind critical strike damage is increased by 10%. Wow, we need 225 strength and the dexterity. Whirlwind provides 1 critical strike per second. Damn, that's actually really cool. Let's have a look at the mage. Ice blades. So it costs mana. Chill. After applying 75 chill, ice blades are conjured. Increase the summon duration of your ice blades by 5 seconds. With 140 willpower, ice blades deal additional damage to frozen targets. Okay. Okay. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I think there was a game who did this. I don't... Was it Dragon Age? No. I mean, technically Cyberpunk does it. Technically Cyberpunk does it with some of their weapons, where you have to reach like certain stats to fully use and utilize the weapon. Alright. Now let's talk items. Weapon types. Ooh, this looks amazing. That looks sleek. Not gonna lie. As we hinted in our last blog, we are making substantial changes to core itemization. We'll start by looking at the many different weapons available to classes in Diablo IV. Our weapon types look visually distinct and have meaningful effects on gameplay through features like Barbarian's Arsenal. We have also done a lot of work in the game engine to make weapons feel more real and physical, like the Barbarian carving through the ground with their mace during upheaval. I like that. That was really cool. That looks slick. But something was still missing. Wands should be faster than quarterstaffs, and swords and maces should do different things. To see what that feels like in action, we have added weapon speeds and inherited characteristics to all weapons in our latest internal test environment. Oh. Yeah, Diablo 3 didn't have any weapon speed because you were just using your skills and weapon speed didn't matter. Hi, Tiny. I wonder how that works with like skills. So the rare wand is a very fast weapon, where the rare staff is a slow weapon. Oh, they're showing it. In general, one-handed weapon excel at letting you attack and reposition quickly, while slow two-handed weapons deal more damage. You can really feel the difference between them. Oh yeah, they're showing this. So I would assume that you want to use a wand as an ice mage because you want to stack the freezing effect. Right, you want to chill them as quickly as possible and then freeze them over. So you basically want the fast attack. And I could assume that with fire, you might want to get like the slow attacks. That's actually a pretty cool consideration. I like that. In addition to speed, each type of weapon has an inherent physical characteristic. For shields, this is block value, meaning that any shield you find in Sanctuary is going to have block, in addition to any magical affix it may have. As physical properties, these traits are consistent across all weapons of the same type and cannot be modified. So let's have a look at those. The buckler, man. Ooh. What is this one? Oh, I assume it's this one, right? Maybe? The critical strike chance? Ooh, chance to inflict bleed. Yeah, I assume that that top thing is something you cannot change. These are the stats you can change. And those are the things you cannot change. So the wand is basically getting crit chance, and the rare axe is getting like a bleeding effect. Huh. That's cool. I like that. I mean, limits you a little bit in what you want to use for certain builds, right? That means for certain builds, let's say you want to do a bleeding build, you definitely want to use axes, like you cannot use swords or clubs or whatever. So, okay, we will see how that goes. You might notice another thing about those items. They are high resolution renders of the actual equipment. In a game like Diablo, icons are important. They often contribute as much to the identity of a cool piece of loot as an in-game representation on your characters. Items that don't appear on your character, like rings, are defined by their icons. We have upgraded all of them. Okay, nice. Don't complain. Item qualities. We've also made some exciting changes to the game's item qualities. Philosophically, we like the clarity of analyses afforded by clearly understood item tiers. In other words, we think players of all skill levels benefit from not having to scrutinize every single item that drops to see if it might be an upgrade for them. Blue magic items are good, but yellow rares are usually better. There's a great feeling of progression when you gravitate into items with greater complexity, more powerful effects, and cooler looks as you level up. And the game-changing powers found on the legendary items in Diablo 3 are exciting and offer many possible effects that just aren't possible with regular affixes. That said, we don't want to end up in a place where the right decision is to ignore every item that doesn't have a glowing orange skybeam. Well, I mean, so we are making a lot of exciting changes. We are increasing the potential power of individual affixes on magic items. We are increasing the maximum number of affixes on rare and better items in the endgame. Legendary affixes now roll randomly. Yes, really. On legendary items. And unique items will replace mythics. Here's the thing. Let's have a look first. Let's have a look. Okay. So I mean, the legendary stuff is still better? Here's the problem I have with this a little bit. Or, well, not a problem, it's a concern. It's a concern. As somebody who has played the early version of Diablo 3, there was basically the problem that there were literally yellow items, which were better than set items and even legendary items, right? Which led to a lot of problems that you were just hunting for the rare items because they could have better stats than your legendary items. And that was completely randomized, and it became a grind. It was so annoying. So, but it's this particular example, it seems the same. Like, you still want to go for the legendary staff, because the weapon attack seems to be the same, but just from the stats wise, even with the empty sockets, I mean, we don't really know how sockets work right now, right? Like, maybe this item could be better with sockets. Yeah, I don't know. I have to see more examples. This is I would love to see more examples on this. Yeah, for sure. You can think legendary affixes. You can think of legendary items as rare items with one affix replaced with a legendary effect. These new legendary affixes work just like regular affixes, in that they can roll randomly on different items and in different slots. Many can be used by any class, while some are specific to particular classes. Well, let's have a look. Plotter's Tread. When you stand inside your own damaging ground effects, you increase the damage they deal by 27%. It's kinda cool. When you stand inside your... Oh, so they're basically showing like... Oh, that's interesting. Oh, so you can have multiple legendary affixes on multiple items. I wonder if they stack. I wonder if you were finding the boots and the breast, or the chest, not the breast, the chest. I wonder if they stack, or if you can only have that particular affix once, and then that's it. I wonder about that. Your chill effects trigger freeze 25% faster, but you deal 30 less frost damage. Ooh. Meteor gains a 45 critical strike, again damage bonus against vulnerable targets. Increase the duration of defense skills. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Okay. I think I like this system. I have to see it in action. But that's good, because the problem was definitely that you always were looking for this one legendary item, right? Like, you wanted to get this one particular legendary item because you wanted to have that very specific affix. So you were like, oh, well, it's this sword. Well, I already know that it doesn't have the legendary affix I'm looking for my build, so I don't need this. But now it can be random, which can be a bit annoying. But we have to see. Yeah. Has its up and down sides, I would say. Alright. You notice the variety of affixes in the example above, including elemental resistances and sockets for gems and runes, which can appear on items in places of another affix, and of course, attack comes from your weapons, while defenses comes from your armor. With the increase to the maximum number of affixes available on the items, we are also be adding new affixes to the game to make sure there's plenty of diversity. Nice. Oh yeah, so there's now something higher than legendaries. And those are uniques. Right. So they basically added what? Magic, rare, legendary, and now uniques. Unique items are making a comeback in a big way in Diablo 4. We are embracing the fantasy of these build-around items with completely fixed affixes, heavily thematic and usually class-specific powers and distinctive looks. Okay, let's have a look at this. Guild of the Plaguebringer. Your poison no longer deals damage over time. Instead of the total damage is dealt to the target when your poison expires. Huh. Oh my god, poison builds. I love poison builds. Sorry. Stormwalker's Grudgel. When Hurricane deals damage, there is a chance to automatically cast Tornado at the target for free. Mad Wolf's Glee. Poisoned enemies hit by your Lacerate or Thrash instantly deal 25% of the remaining damage to all nearby enemies. So this is basically like two poison builds. Like one is for the werewolf or werebear build, and that's basically like the magic build for the druid. Oh, that's interesting. This one is not bound to the druid. Oh, look at that. Look at that. 1+ rank to hunt the weak. So the 1+ is back. That's something which was in Diablo 2. Interesting. Very interesting that they are bringing that back. Huh. That's really cool. Hey, Sting. Quick note here. I'm also recording this right now for YouTube. So if I'm focusing a little bit more on what's in front of us and not so much what's going on in the chat, please forgive me. I will still answer your questions and your comments you were putting in. But yeah, I'm also recording this as a special video for YouTube, just so you know. Alright, back to it. But yeah, this looks good. This looks actually really interesting. I wonder, and in the end, if you will just go for the uniques. And how easy are the uniques to be obtained? Like there was in Diablo 3, basically getting legendaries, which were the uniques in Diablo 3, was really easy to obtain. Well, relatively easy to obtain. Not super easy, but relatively easy. And I wonder how easy it is to get those unique items. So maybe because uniques are now super rare, this is why they introduced like the legendaries, so that the legendaries are the endgame items later on you want to farm, because they are easier to obtain and they are still giving you a considerate boost, and then you will get some uniques here and there, but it will be relatively rare. I wonder if that is the plan they have. Alright. We still like the idea of mythic items, but we don't want to create an item quality that invalidates all others, so they are out for now. Okay, I can live with that. I'm okay with that. One of the things we've loved most about them was the promise of getting random legendary powers on an item, so we folded that into the baseline legendary design. Makes sense. With the addition of the skills and passive trees, primary stat points, and changes to items in Diablo 4, we can't wait to see all the builds you will create. Maybe you focus on skills augmented by uniques we designed, create something from scratch out of different legendary affixes, discover a creative pairing of primary stats with the specific skills, or even incorporate the odd rare magic item to maximize the specific affix to a great effect. We're excited to read through the community feedback on the updates in this blog. As always, please remember that none of this is final as the game is still actively in development. Your constructive discussions around these features will continue to help Diablo 4, and we greatly appreciate your support, and so on and so forth. And they have lots to share in 2021 and when the BlizzCon line will happen. This was solid. Like I said before, it is very different to what Diablo 3 was. I said it at the beginning of the video. Diablo 3 was created mostly in secret. The community didn't really have a big say into it, and they just did it. They just developed it, released it, and it was a mess. Thankfully, it became better with Reaper of Souls, but I still believe like one of the biggest problems was just the longevity of the game. Like, Diablo 3 has such a low skill ceiling, so to speak, that people just stop playing it after some time. When you look in comparison to Path of Exile, where a lot of people are still playing this game after 6-7 years, and they have still like tons of stuff to discover, and every new season for a lot of people it's something different because of all the possibilities, then yes, even though Path of Exile is far more complicated at the beginning, in the long run, it offers so much more to you. And that was basically the same thing true to Diablo 2. Diablo 2 had this longevity to it, where you could play the game for years and years to come because there was so much you could do. There was so much, like not just leveling up your character, getting all the skills and all the talents you need, and then throw your skills together. Like you had to think about it, you had to find the items to make it possible, and so on and so forth. Like there were so many parts moving that yes, it might have been confusing for new players, and especially for developers, that's a lot of work to keep it updated. I totally get that. But that's what made Diablo 2 and Lord of Destruction, of course, a game people could just lose themselves for years to come. The same goes, by the way, for Grim Dawn and Path of Exile. Like, this is why those games are still very, very active and are still getting monthly updates. Like, even Grim Dawn is, I think, releasing like a new huge free update very soon, and Diablo 3 doesn't, because the player base just moved on. So I really hope with Diablo 4, and it seems like they are finally going that route, they're going back into this in-depth feeling. Like, I'm already happy that the skill points are back. That is something I'm really looking forward to. Again, does it really make a big difference to what Diablo 3 does? Well, on paper, no. I said it before, right? Like, if you were putting in the skill points, or if the game is putting in the skill points, you will still end up at the same power level. But that's not the point. It's a power fantasy, and the fantasy is like, yes, I did something by clicking on this button, by giving the barbarian more strength, for an example, to make him feel more powerful. Like, you feel the progression. And yes, it's an illusion, but it is an illusion which works since Dungeons and Dragons, and people love it. So glad that they're keeping that up. I'm actually kind of curious to click on details. Not gonna lie. I would love to click on details here. And I would love to see what all the details are. Because right now you can only see attack, defense, and life. Right? And I would love to see, like, what else? Also, there are mounts. Quest inventory. Materials. Materials? Oh, probably the crafting materials. Huh. But yeah. Like, I love those quarterly updates. And I'm looking forward to BlizzCon. And I hope that, like I said it before, I want that Blizzard starts an alpha or beta of Diablo IV very early in development and actually give the people an in-depth look into the game so that they can gather even more feedback. Because what Diablo 3 did, and I know I said that at the beginning of this video, Diablo 3 gave you a beta 6 months before the release, which is okay for balancing, but then they only gave you the Skeleton King. You could only play till the Skeleton King, which is like 25% of like Act 1. That didn't help anyone. Like, literally didn't help anyone. And that's why Diablo 3 was also a mess. Not just balancing wise, but also like gameplay wise. A lot of people didn't feel Diablo 3. So yeah, this time it seems like they're really on the ball and they are trying to gather feedback. And so far, I like what I at least see in those updates. I have to play it, and after Diablo 3 I will make it very clear. I have to play it to make a decision here. But it certainly looks far more interesting than Diablo 3 did. Also, are scrolls back? I just realized that. It seems like we have Town Portal scrolls back. Huh. That is... And also like chugging the flask. Maybe. I don't know what the cooldown is. So they're really going back to a lot of like Diablo 2 elements. Which is great. Like... I don't understood why they removed like a lot of the Diablo 2 elements. Like there was no reasonable reason to move away from a lot of the Diablo 2 elements besides of not being Blizzard North and wanting to create your own Diablo. Now keep in mind that Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 was not developed by Blizzard, but by Blizzard North, which was a completely different company. They just had the same name, but they were like a completely different company. And well, they got shut down and then Blizzard basically took over and they scrapped Diablo 3 and then they started to make their own Diablo 3. So, but whatever. That's enough. Thanks so much for watching. We will definitely be back with the BlizzCon update in February. I'm looking forward to that. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button. And if you're also new to the channel and you want to see more Diablo updates, gaming news, and live streams, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. I would appreciate that. And I hope I see you next time.